All right. Nice to see you, Dan.
Nice to see you too, Linda. It's been a while.
Yeah, super excited. So you're the final one actually in our Inspiring Agritourism webinar series. So for those of you that don't know, this is Dan Walker, also known as Outback Dan of Camden Park Station in Longreach. I won't steal your thunder, Dan, but just to give everyone a little bit of context, Camden Park is a 18,000 acre working sheep and cattle station just outside Longreach. I've known Dan for a while now, and it's been fun to watch his journey evolving from the pastoral industry over into tourism. And you're a bit of a natural, really, Dan, I have to say. But yeah, I'm really excited for you to be able to share the story of how you have made that transition into tourism and the work that you've done to be what I would say is really successful as an agritourism operator in Outback Queensland. Over to you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and obviously we're really interested to understand, that transition that you made, or what started this desire to move into tourism and to create the agritourism business or businesses that you now have in Longreach in Outback Queensland.
Beautiful, Linda. No, thank you very much. And I want to thank you for being there. Sorry about the cars passing by. We're pretty busy here at the Longreach Station, ex-Pastoral College. But Linda, we want to say a big thank you to the Tilma Group for your support initially with our transition. We sold the family property for in succession planning, mum and dad to retire into retirement, sell into retirement. And that saw my wife and I, Brooke, leaving a 70,000 acre property as we were the managers of for the previous 12 years. And successfully transitioning the business from one generation to another. So mum and dad are playing golf every second Sunday and enjoying their time. So the transition was then looking at the industries that I think my grandfather really harnessed his attention and focus, being the Shire Chairman here of Longreach for 35 years. And the road that passes us here is called the Sir James Walker Drive. He was knighted Free Service to Community in 1972. I think it was after the Queen had visited for lunch with him on a lunch date in 1970. He may have, tapped her on the shoulder and asked about the knighthood. But that inspiration and that journey of his as a 16-year-old boy coming into this town, drawing a ballot of land and going to work was, I think, the stepping stone for my inspiration to harness what those forefathers spoke about back in their day, to support the area. The agricultural industry is very strong, but it can be very weak as well. So the tourism, it's a bit like the hare and the tortoise. It keeps coming, and I've really wanted to. I think the pride of the location and the history here. Longreach was what drove me to nervously jumping on the first bus of grey nomads coming through. And actually, that's wrong. I started with tagalong tours, Linda, as you would remember, and it was one guy. And I thought to myself, this is going to be a long road, but knew that the commitment had to be there. And this one guy and I, we tagged along. He was in his car and I was in mine, and we're on the two-way, and we're out and we're talking, and we became good mates. It wasn't until 3 weeks later did a family come, and it was my biggest group of people to visit the property on this tag-along tour with Outback Dan, and they said, oh, we met this old guy in Charleville, and we weren't coming this way. We were going across to Roma and back down the coast, but he spoke of this tour, and so we thought we had to come, and that was 2 adults and 3 kids, and I said to myself, well, that's what it's about. I think that's if I can do that for one person, then I think there's something here. So it's being authentic. It's being the touch feel experience. It's giving them that opportunity to meet somebody local and be welcome to the area. Literally kicking up the dust and experiencing the Outback story and Australia's story. And so, it's now to today, we've transitioned into other agritourism ventures, and that's looking at the school groups, which I've advocated for many years, to visit our lovely place called Longreach and see the dinosaurs at Winton and have that Aboriginal cultural experience at Barcaldine and taking on Canberra head to head. I can't see why our school kids from our own state can't see their backyard, and instead of going and seeing, I have to be politically correct here, another city. So wanting to offer that experience, and AB Patterson are on their way next week. We've got 142 staying with us here at the Longreach Station, ex-Pastoral College. So the skill camps are the big application. As far as business concerns, they're repeat. They're coming the next year, and they're inspired, I suppose, and they can see the opportunities and the synergies of visiting the country. And so I think there's 4 kids that came out on school camp in the last 10 years that are living and working in Longreach now. From the hospital down to the what's that one doing? Tyre shop.
That's really cool. That's so cool. Dan, tell me, what's the mix of what you do at the moment? Because I know you always throw your hand at anything. You get in, you have a go. Like you started, I love that story of starting with your tag-along tours. And I know you then had coach groups coming on to Camden Park Station. You were doing, group activities and stuff. Then you've had a play in events and bringing events into Longreach. Like I don't know if this is an easy question to answer, but, what's the mix of what you offer now? What's it look like?
So this time last year would have been 70-30, 70% tourism, 30% agriculture. Now it's 100% tourism, 0% agriculture. I don't have any time to strain fences or fix waters or chase cattle, although I love it dearly. The 100% is now on tourism, bringing that agriculture, so agritourism. The mix then is probably within that 100%, 20% events, 60% tours, and another 20% administration. Making the phone calls to the likes of Fairholme College to get them to come out in 2025, Kangaroo Bus Lines, to working with them with their school groups, and even just yesterday talking to Ag Start Australia about doing their induction week out here in January. Again, they were heading to Adelaide, I think, and hopefully we can get them out to country here and experience and connect with those that will hopefully be employing that next generation on the land. So 20, 40, 20. Is that
excellent?
26 to 20.
I love that you said before, it takes commitment. Like, you're so right. And I often, when we work with different farmers that are looking at at diversifying into tourism, I think that's often a bit of a missed piece of information, is just that level of commitment. It doesn't just happen overnight. You've got to be agile enough to give things a go, stick at it, be committed, create relationships, all that stuff that you've done such a great job at doing over the years. I did want to ask, Dan, what new skills did you need to go from agriculture to tourism, and how did you learn those?
Beautiful. I think naturally I had them within me, being the school captain, being the larrakin at school, and having great relationships, sitting down on a bike 100k south of here, talking to sheep, just, I knew there was something bigger and better. That commitment, I think, comes down to a bit of belief. And I think the biggest tool that I had to learn was to actually listen. I don't think I had done that prior to getting into the tourism industry. It was really understanding that person that was in front of you and having that, the tag-along tours went 4 hours. So a one-on-one with a total stranger, you well, they're investing their money into your time, and you're investing into their time. So you're sharing, and so that's been probably the biggest tool that I've had to learn is to listen and see who's in front of you and relate. And that's been an easier thing for me than my poor wife Brooke, who's not so much a people's person, but can cook a good steak. And so we've just worked together and trusted that belief in ourselves and the support. The tourism industry, coming from the agricultural industry, and I won't get political, but the tourism industry, the people that are involved in this industry are just beautiful people. They care for one another and support and encourage. I came into the industry, and the Peter Homans, the Lloyd Millses, the Tony Martins, they were all so very supportive, and I couldn't believe I was, sitting in front of CEOs of these attractions and, the OQTA, and they were like, "Have a go, mate," and so I did, and yeah, it's been very rewarding. We get a bit sad over the summertime when we don't have any visitors. It's yeah, but and then initially it was a bit of hard slog, but I was able to financially back that initial part of it and see those first 3 years through, and then the word of mouth really got those coach groups coming through, and like you said, relationship building. It's it's a good place to be here looking back, Linda. It's
you've nailed it. Like for me, I love how you say that about your partner, Brooke. Like I think that's really important as well, is to know your role. Sometimes farmers, it's not easy for them to diversify into tourism. It is a people-based industry, and it's really different going from sitting on a tractor talking to yourself to, being in a group of people that want to ask everything about you, right, Dan? I remember in the earlier days, the questions, people would ask you, they're quite personal, because they're curious. Yeah. So you have to also know your own personal traits and where you fit in the industry. So it's so good to see that you and Brooke have been able to do that. And I think the other thing you just mentioned, which I think is really important for people to realise, and I must say, I don't think everybody has such a great or positive experience as you in terms of being accepted and those relationships. I think that's a bit of an outback country culture. So accepting. I think, yes, the tourism industry is beautiful, made up of so many people, but there can be some challenges in different locations to break down barriers sometimes. Yes. But I think the point you say, relationships are key. And I've watched you do that. You go to Brisbane, you meet people, you really put in the energy and the time to build those connections and ask questions and manage really good relationships. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think there's some really good points there for people to take away. But Dan, tell me, what would you say? I know you said it was a hard slog at the start. It took a lot of commitment, time, probably threw a bit of money down the drain, going through the process. What would you say was your, I'm going to say your biggest hurdle that you had to overcome in the earlier stages as you were moving more into the tourism industry?
The biggest hurdle, Linda, I reckon feedback.
Interesting.
It is so personal. That was probably the biggest challenge. And
actually taking feedback on board or hearing feedback.
Just being aware of, somebody being able to put something on TripAdvisor and being concerned about what everybody else will think, trying to make everybody happy, keep everyone happy. Yeah. It never happened, but that was, to put yourself out there publicly, you can be, criticised and shot down, and spoken about, I think, and that, that I felt was very hindrance to the business if it did come about. Oh no, you don't want to do that experience. You'd rather want to do something else. So I probably lost a lot of energy around that and making sure it was above expectation. And I must admit, Linda, I've probably lost a bit of that now. Just over the few decades I've been doing it, probably, which is not a great thing, but the transition that we've had to make from the Camden Park Station tours, which wasn't all year round, and had to go still to work elsewhere, not sitting on an air-conditioned bus. This transition coming into the Longreach Station and dealing with the accommodation side of things is really taken from that tour experience. And so feedback recently hasn't been, oh, Outback Dan's not present at that school camp that we do, the camp oven experience. I've got 11 other people doing the work instead, coming for that afternoon of experience with the school kids. And the feedback has been, we want more of Outback Dan. And I just don't know if I can. I can definitely do it, but I don't have the time to put so much energy as I used to into it. So I feel that there's going to be some more feedback coming back about that, but it's all within the transition period. And the Longreach Station is the opportunity here, running events, having school camps, short-term workers accommodation, doing the pool, walking, I think it's 13,000 steps a day between the dining room and back over to the dorms, and losing 400 bolts and
The fun stuff.
I know.
But it's managing expectations, isn't it? It's like, that is hard. You've built your own identity and a bit of a brand as like Outback Dan, so, and a following, and then there's an expectation around that. And, it's similar to the conversation we're having before we jumped online about, you just need another you, that's hard. So it's that whole challenge around workforce as well, right? How do you scale a business, and particularly in remote locations like Longreach and Outback Queensland? You're doing a fabulous job.
16 hours a day, and I don't think I'll be stopped doing that. I think I might get a breath before we take our son back to boarding school in January, hopefully. But yeah.
So I think the message there for those listening is 16-hour days. Don't be scared. But I think it's like you said earlier, Dan, it is commitment, right? You've got to put the energy and the effort in to get that return.
Yeah.
Hey, I had a question from Tom, and he was asking, particularly around, when you were doing group tours, like with Camden Park Station, and now you've got school groups. He was asking, was that a deliberate decision for you to focus more on groups and group tours rather than independent travellers that were coming to Longreach? Like, what's your kind of rationale behind focusing on groups rather than independent travellers, if that's even correct?
That's great. That has been a transition for us in our business. We did have a lot of focus on the free independent travellers, seeing them drive past. We opened a bush camp up and had that experience of, going and having sunset with Outback Dan. And then, COVID sort of happened, and we looked at our time going forward, and that was a pretty scary time, not having those visitors as such, and the cancellations that were coming through. At that stage, I was working at the Saltbush retreat, and the 1 week we were fine, keep going. I said, I don't think this is a good thing going forward. And then the next week, all the cancellations came through for all the group bookings. So I had learned a little bit along the way on the time that I was spending on the energy on the free independent travellers for its return. So talking to 10 different, couples in comparison to having one group like Fun Over 50s or Outback Aussie Tours or Great Value Holidays, having that one person to talk to and then they arrive. I don't think it was that decision. And I mean, if we were 100K out of town, we would have to focus on the free independent travellers. But we were able, with our location on my home property where I was born and raised, is 10 minutes out of town. So we had that access to those groups and the support of those companies coming through. So so for Tom's question, it really came back to time and energy, and whereas your best, I don't know, is it CM squared or something equals whatever?
Yeah.
Well,
you've got to, yeah. It's a smart business decision, right? It's knowing your market. It's knowing what you have to offer and finding those opportunities to make those good decisions.
Yeah.
What would you say, so talking about the group market, if there's others out there looking at, exploring the group market for tours or accommodation, whatever it may be in terms of agritourism experiences, do you have any tips, in terms of getting started or to maintain those relationships in the group market?
Linda, you just nailed it on the head. Get started. Take that first step. Yeah. And believe and back yourself. If you think you can, well, you will, and then
what is the first step, Dan?
What is the first step? To make that first step, I suppose meeting. So we've just brought on Courtney Horan, who's got a master's in education and does a great job around the agricultural training. And yeah, I think my first step with her was to introduce her to the tourism industry, to those people that make decisions and those people that have been in it for so long. So she was hesitant to start with. And when I sort of look at it, Courtney, it's not personal, it's just business. Don't take it personally. Every business is a person, like Smithy Outback Aussie Tours and Tony Qantas Founders and Cheryl Thompson, Dreamtime, Buck Horton, like they're all, Devon Graham Reid over at Charleville. It's all, the business is the person behind it. And so I think that first step is meeting the industry and getting an understanding of your market and asking the questions. It doesn't hurt to ask at all the question. There's not, they say there's no dumb questions. I think that's probably that first step. As long as you can make it, then you'll get momentum following you. So, and it's like I said before, it's very rewarding industry to be in and to, I think, represent the Australian agriculture is beautiful. Like it is, it is the best in the world, and to be a vocal person on behalf of our industry is a very rewarding place to be. And so if those people like Tom that have asked these questions and those following this, Linda, if they're proud about their industry, then it won't be hard work.
Yeah.
And you're proud about
well
your location,
said.
it becomes you, it's natural, and if you've got it, you got it.
Yeah. Yeah, be proud. It's about authentic and meaningful experiences. That's ultimately what people want. So it's like if you're proud of where you are, your community, what you do, and you're sharing your stories. I mean, they make that sound so simple, but really, that's what people are looking for. They want connection. They want authenticity. And I think that's what people like you offer. When people can go into beautiful places like Outback Queensland and connect with authentic people, it's magic.
Yes, it really is. And I think there's a pyramid on expectations. I think you might have actually presented at one of your talks, Linda. And where they're getting to, the top of the pyramid is that expectation of, life changing or life memory. Like and so it's quite easy to get those expectations for that person that's in front of you, that's paying their money to spend their time with you, to get to that top of the pyramid that has that, life-changing experience, or that memorable experience. And so that's where I like to be. And it's lovely to see some beautiful feedback, and connecting relationships with people, and at the moment the people that we're seeing are very supportive of us going forward, and what we can do for the outback, for our agricultural industry, for the tourism industry, and really connecting our next generation to the country, and keeping our identity and our larrakinism, our culture continuing, because Linda, we could lose it very quickly within one generation, and we've got to get the youth out to see these opportunities, otherwise they're too busy being rat bags in the city.
Yeah. I still can't believe, well, I can believe it, but it's fabulous to hear you say, was it 4 or 5, students that have come out over the past however many years of now residents of Longreach. Like that, to me, I know that doesn't sound like a huge number, but for a remote community, it absolutely is. And I think it shows the power of tourism as an industry. We often don't look at it as this, marketing tool, where it is. Tourism is a fabulous opportunity to introduce people to a community, and if you give people a great experience like you do, it opens their eyes to go, oh my God, I love this place. And that's such a big opportunity for regional and rural Australia, is to show off what you have, share it with people, and, you never know what could come of it.
Yeah. These school kids, they leave Brisbane, get to Toowoomba, chatting, all excited, start looking out the window between Toowoomba and Dalby, and then keep looking out the window and wide open space, and our beautiful nation, and they're connecting to their spirit there. And so that livability is I like it, almost like. So I've got some mates out at the moment caravanning, and they're bragging to other mates about being in Longreach, and that hasn't happened in the past. Oh, why would you go out there? It's hot and desert. But now it's almost like my brother said at a breakfast we did the other day in Brisbane. He said, "Oh, Longreach is the Noosa of the Outback."
Yeah,
and I said, "Oh, Longreach is putting Noosa on the map."
Maybe stepping a little far there. But it is its own thing. Like, I mean, to be beautiful. Serious, I mean, Noosa is Noosa, and it's iconic and popular for reasons why it is. Yes. Longreach is exactly the same.
Yeah.
There's this desire in people, and I used to always, I still say, whenever I go to Outback or a remote location, it's the way you feel. It's really hard to say to people what it's like, but it's always just like, it's like this weight taken off your shoulders, and it just has this down to earth feeling. I love it.
Yeah. And you can't feel it unless you're here.
Yeah.
So
everybody,
that's marketing.
Absolutely. Everybody book a trip to Outback Queensland. Dan, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we wrap up? Any tips, recommendations on anybody that might be, exploring the idea of looking into agritourism?
Yeah, definitely, Linda. You've had a fairly big following in your business, and it's been great to be a part of that initially when we were setting up. I would tell people to seek people like you that are positive, energetic, and know the industry from council to private enterprise through to regional, state, national. You know, I think that's almost your first port of call is to talk to the Tillman Group to get on board, to quickly grab that. You know, information is power, and you guys have got that with your experiences to quickly grasp the tourism industry or agritourism industry, know if it's right for you or not.
Yeah.
And so I think that would be some of my initial advice. You know, that's maybe the first step is to, introduce yourself to the industry, and through you guys, the Tillman Group, really knowing not just Outback Queensland, but, you know, Outback New South Wales, and travel everywhere, and your speaking gigs and all that behind agritourism, is where they should probably initially start. And it's okay not to continue it on if it's not for you. But if you think you've got it in you, back yourself and believe. And you know, I'm no big success yet. I'm not there. I was asked if, you know, I'm an entrepreneur, and the answer was, well, I haven't got a first level yet. You know, I'm in the lift, and and I don't think I'll ever get there. It's for the next generation. You know, the past generations have done it for us, and I want to do it for the next generations. And
yeah. And I think it's lovely to, you know, I've had conversations with other people, you know, in regional and rural communities, like farmers, and they say tourism plays a really important role in keeping young people in regional communities as well. It is about the next generation. Tourism's never going to take over agriculture. That's definitely not what this is about, but it's about creating those opportunities, and it's creating the livability and the vibrancy in regional communities and maintaining that, so people do want to come and not only visit, but to live, and for our young ones to have opportunities to do something other than what they would think is a natural kind of progression for them. So I love your work, Dan. Could talk to you all day.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much.
No, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and good luck. Good luck with Longreach Station and the school groups. I have no doubt you'll kill it.
Yeah, no, we're definitely in it for the long haul. And Linda, if anybody wants my number or email, please share it on. And thank you for thinking of us to be a part of the agritourism program through the Tillman Group. And I don't know if you left the best for last, but I'm sure
we sure did.
All the team. So everybody's got their way, and thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
Lovely, Linda. Thank you.